Yo, what's going on, guys? It's G Miners here. Each season I make a ton of builds, but it's pretty hard to go over exactly what will be good for a day one raid. King's Fall just launched, and with it I ran a few different builds on day one, but I wanted to go through and share what I consider probably the best build I ran. This build is going to be on Warlock, and overall I think it's actually one of the best endgame builds in all of Destiny. Most players took in healing nades, stasis turret builds, and fusion nades, but this was actually a void-based build which mops no matter how difficult something is. The exotic this build revolves around is the Nothing Manacles, which by default is going to give you 2 scatter grenade charges, and this also makes the projectiles of the nade track better, so in turn they're going to be able to deal more damage by just landing more on targets. Now I know most people are immediately going to say Controverse holds are better and why not just use Controverse, and the reason is I just don't think Controverse are that strong. They tend to require a very particular playstyle, which also tends to just be very slow. You end up waiting for energy to return to use your grenade again, which is just downtime. Half the time you don't get it back. Other times ads will just outright avoid it. When you do get it back, it's more so from Devour, not the exotic itself, and the 50% damage resistance that people claim is beneficial barely comes into play. If your goal is to use grenades for damage, then Controverse is definitely a better option, but I tend to use my grenades for much more quick utility, which is why Nothing Manacles are much better for this build, and then also it tends to make you much more mobile. Unless I need the ad clear offered by Nova Warp, I'm always on Vortex Nova Bomb. This and Cataclysmic Nova Bomb deal nearly identical damage in most cases, and all Cataclysmic will ever do is block your team's shots during a damage phase, so Vortex is always going to be better. After that, I run Healing Rift, and then obviously Scatter Grenades, and then for my aspects, I am first up on Feed the Void. This is going to give me Devour whenever I get an ability kill. Overall, scatter grenades have a much higher TTK, which is another huge reason I choose to run them over vortex nades. If I'm ever critical and need to proc Devour, there is a much higher chance that I do it by quickly throwing one of these down rather than charging up a vortex nade and waiting for it to get a kill. After this, I run Child of the Old Gods. This is one of the best aspects in the entire game, and if we're running Controverse, we would more than likely be on Chaos Accelerant instead and not have access to this. With Child of the Old Gods, placing our Rift down grants us a Void Soul, and shooting it attaches it to an enemy. This weakens the enemy and everything else nearby, while also dealing damage, so basically, it's a beefed up mini Tether. But then on top of that, we also get increased melee and grenade energy back since we are on Healing Rift, as it does damage, and then killing the target that it is attached to grants Rift energy straight back as well. The reason that scatter nades are also going to be coming in super clutch for us is because of the fragments we are running. Echo of Instability, as of right now, is the only way to get volatile rounds. Throwing a grenade gives 10 or 15 seconds of volatile rounds. I can't remember exactly, but this is going to help rip through trash ads, and then it also helps a ton on tanky targets. Not only does the volatile explosion deal extra damage, but it also flinches and pushes ads around, so you can almost stun lock certain enemies. Echo of Undermining is just going to make our scatter grenades weaken enemies, so this is a solid 15% debuff, which also just makes the nade 15% stronger. Since our grenades are also abilities, this is going to be constantly proccing Devour, and with Devour, we will constantly be getting all our health back on kill, and around 20% grenade energy back per kill as well. Echo of Persistence is going to make Devour now last up to 15 total seconds, so we have a huge amount of time to get a kill with this applied. Just playing casually and not worrying about it, Devour will almost always stay up, which means we are going to be extremely hard to kill unless we get one shot, and our scatter grenades will constantly be around for us to use as well. Lastly, I like to run Echo of Obscurity. This is super strong for 2 major reasons. The first is because it can be used as a crutch to get out of a sticky situation. Just going for a finisher and getting invis out of that with extended duration because of Echo of Persistence is great. And if Devour is up, we're also going to be proccing health regen off of that as well. Secondly, for boss encounters, I can also opt to run Aeons instead. This will generate heavy and special ammo for my team on finishers, so even though we don't have the double scatter grenades, we aren't going to lose any major benefits with this build by hot swapping exotics either, and the invis just makes getting finishers off much safer. If you do want to have an optimal build, then you are also going to need some weapons that pair well with the build itself. My favorite primary to use with this has actually been Unforgiven. A lot of players put this SMG off because the reload and mag size are super bad, and the fact that it is also a 750, but this SMG also has the best god roll in the entire game for grenade-based builds, which is going to be Demolitionist and Frenzy. Demo is going to increase the energy we get back per kill even further with Devour. The SMG is also Void, so it's going to hit like a truck with volatile rounds, and then Frenzy is going to stay up the entire time we are in combat. So from this, we get a constant 15% increase in weapon damage, we get 50 handling, which should max our handling out, and we get 50 reload speed, which is going to make the reload on this stronger than something like Callus Mini Tool. Adrenaline Addiction and Golden Tricorn are going to be much better damage perks for grenade builds, but the reload and handling from Frenzy and the consistency of it make it better for the end game, in my opinion. The Origin trait Bitterspite also gives us more reload speed on top of all of this. And then lastly, if you manage to get a roll with high caliber rounds, you're also going to flinch tougher enemies. And even if you still don't like this weapon, Funnel Web and Gnawing Hunger work just fine too. As far as mods go, the only major things I run with this build are going to be Elemental Ordnance and then Font of Might. Elemental Ordnance will just generate elemental wells on grenade kills that match our subclass, which will be Void, and then Font of Might will boost weapon damage of the same type when grabbing an elemental well that matches our subclass. So very quickly and very constantly, I can get a Void weapon boost for 25% more damage on my primary. So with the constant grenade spam, the volatile rounds, Font of Might as we just went over, Demo, and then Devour for both nade energy and survivability, plus the mini tether from our Rift, and the fact that we can do everything with just a single primary, this build becomes extremely top tier. It also leaves your kinetic and heavy open for pure DPS options like Izzy, Arbalest, and other linears. There were definitely times when using a well was much more beneficial for my team, and there were also times where Stasis and Supreme Wellmaker will be better for bosses, but this build kind of has a little bit of everything. I ran this for War Priest, Sisters, and Oryx on day one, and there was never a time where I felt like I couldn't do something because my build was limiting. I highly recommend this build for some higher end content, and you should definitely have it ready to go for Lightfall when that raid comes out. If you guys do want some more realistic end game content builds, especially for day one raids in the future, then make sure to drop a like and let me know in the comments below. Anyways, that's all for this video, guys. As always, have a good one. Peace.